Good afternoon, learners. Welcome to this afternoon IT. Okay, so just some rules before we get started. Remember, we were just noting the comments from previous lessons that took place this morning from learners. So in future, if you have to use the Zoom group chat, you would obviously be able to only communicate to me directly, and remember, any other message will be sent directly to the host. Okay, so again, if there's anything you need to ask, you obviously can ask me directly, but other messages will be sent directly to the host. And obviously, we're finding that learners are spending a lot of time on the chat rather than paying attention to the work. So I thought for today we could start or do something a bit different. So I think this past week we really delved quite a bit into arrays. So we're going to take a break for the next 2 days on arrays. And I just want to just show you what the exams would look like. So today we're going to look at the June 2017 practical examination. Okay, and what I did was, if you scroll up to the chat, you will see that I left a link for you to download the files. Okay, so the data files are available for you to download, and the question paper. So once you're in the drive, open up the folder, and it is called June 2017 is the name of the document, and then the folder that the data files is stored in is I think June 2017 as well, but I'm sure you would figure it out if you once you're in there. So again, let's get started. So, and in addition to that, all the content that I did with you from the start of these lessons are also available. The PowerPoints, the recorded links, etc. So you're welcome to. If the link is not clear for you, oh, by the way, if anyone needs to contact me regarding questions after the lesson or anything regarding IT, you're welcome. My email address is here, so you're welcome to contact me, and I will try to be I'll try to respond to you with the best answer possible. Okay, so let's move on. So this is the link that I did paste into the chat. You're welcome to access it. But can we just focus on the content for today, or just focus on the lesson today? And once the lesson is done, you're welcome to download it and try it yourself. Okay, so this is the question, or this is a screenshot of the question paper that we are talking about. And I really wanted to do this because I think that you really will appreciate all the content that you learned from the beginning of the year. So notice over here, it says the municipality will be holding a national conference at the Durban ICC in July, where delegates at the conference will be representing their provinces. And again, I'm going to try to give you as much hints as possible, or not hints, rather tips on how to handle or how to tackle an exam question. Many times we see learners get straight into the coding part. Learners, there's a reason that a scenario was provided to you. Remember, if you were with me this past 2 weeks, you would realize that you had to become involved in the problem. You couldn't just say, okay, I just need to look for the code for provincial code, etc. No, you had to see exactly, you had to become involved in the problem so you knew exactly how to approach the situation or how to write code for this problem. So let's read it. Let's continue reading. It says, okay, so let's continue. Okay, so let's continue this. So it says, just want to go back there. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so it's going to continue. The municipality will be holding a national conference at the Durban ICC in July, where delegates at the conference will be representing their provinces. Details of the delegates attending the provinces will be captured using the form. Let's look at this form. Okay, so it says it has delegate details over there, etc. It says delegate details, first name, ID number, surname, province, accommodation required. It has these buttons. I'm going to share with you the interface so we can see exactly what we are talking about. Okay, so there's the interface here. And remember, learners, you have the code, you have linked to the code, so you're welcome to try it out as well. Okay, so I'm gonna run this. Remember, this is another hint. Okay, when you open your project, okay, learners tend to open it or open the folder and choose a file within the folder. Remember, the key to open up your project is to go to File, Open Project, and you obviously locate your question from there. You do not want to go to the folder first and then open it without using Delphi. So again, I will repeat that you want to open your project using Delphi. Okay, so notice this is a tab sheet. It has a conference over here and it has a delegates tab. So we're obviously going to look at the conference tab for today. So and remember, the first tip is obviously to open the project using Delphi, and the second tip is to always run the program before you can type code into it. I can't tell you the amount of times you get learners spending an hour typing out the code and then realizing that they don't have the play button to run their program. So please, tip one is to open the project using Delphi, and tip two is to run the form and then start coding. So we're going to do that. Okay, and if I do that, I'm just going to share that with you. It's obviously it's obviously going to allow you to see the form. Again, please learn to do this in future. Okay, so let's get straight into the code. Okay, I'm going to share the screen with you again. We're going to look at the question one last time. So it says the municipality will be holding a national conference. Now the first button. Okay, let's get to the first question. Question 2.1.1. Validate the ID number. Validate the ID number in the edit EDT ID. Okay, and please note, you need to put your code or get used to putting the code in the correct button. Okay, if it's not in the correct button, maybe now your teachers will be a bit lenient with you and mark your code. But remember, come grade 12, you're going to have to put code in the correct places. So we're using this button called verify ID number. It says validate the ID number in the EDT ID as only a 13-digit ID number will be acceptable. If an ID number does not meet this requirement, then the edit should be cleared and the user should be continuously prompted to enter their ID number until a valid ID number is entered. Display the valid ID number in the edit box. So again, let's try to analyze the question. Everyone's happy with it being a 13-digit ID number? Yes, we're happy with that. Uh, we need to clear the edit if an invalid ID number is entered. And obviously we're going to check if it is equal to 13 digits. Okay. Continuously prompt via a dialog box. That obviously means that we're going to use a show message and until a valid ID number is entered. So remember, the user should be allowed to be prompted to enter a valid number until a valid ID number is entered. So for instance, if the user enters a 10-digit ID number, it is not valid. So what should happen is the T edit should be cleared and the user should be prompted to enter the ID number again. In this instance, when you have to do some kind of testing, an if statement is not going to be sufficient. You would obviously have to employ the use of a while loop, which will be able to test until the condition is true. Okay, so display the valid ID number in the edit box. So now that we have an idea of what's required for us, we can go to the code and see how to do this. Okay, so remember the question was to be typed in verify ID number. So I'm going to double click on that button, okay, and I'm going to start typing the code. So remember, learners, programming always applies IPO, input, processing, and output. Okay, so let's do our inputs first. I always tell my learners in class as well, you may not know how to do everything, but if you just start off with the basics, you obviously will build up enough momentum to obviously get started to doing those much complicated tasks that are required in the paper. So we're going to ask the user to input an ID number. Now, because I am going to, and let me ask you this, okay? Should the ID number be entered as an integer or a string? Okay, I'll give you a chance to think about that. Should the ID number be entered as an integer or a string. Because, okay, so I'm hoping you thought about that. I'm going to continue, but I'm hoping you realize that the ID number had to be a string. Firstly, because you needed to find, thank you, Brownman, you needed to find the length of the ID number. And in order for you to use any string and character handling function, the data type of that input needs to be in a string format. Okay, so we're going to accept ID number as a string. So I'm going to say ID string. You can go ahead and use the naming convention of saying SID. I'm just going to go ahead and continue. Okay, the user is going to type the ID number. ID is equal to EDT. Now, learners, if you don't know by now how to get the auto prediction or to provide you suggestions of the available edit components or whatever component it is, you press Control Space, and it gives you a list of options that are available, matching what you have already typed. So I want EDT ID, and obviously the method for a t-edit is dot text. Okay, input is done. I'm going to leave enough space so that I can understand this. And let's put a comment over here so learners can follow as they go along, or maybe they're watching it later on. Now we said that the ID number needs to be 13 digits. Okay, so I'm gonna create this variable called I length, make it an integer. Okay, and I'm going to say I length, remember, control space, is equal to length. Now, this is another thing I always tell my learners. Length function, obviously, again, the prediction was there. And sometimes if the prediction doesn't work and you want to just continue typing the length out, I know it sounds really stupid, but learners usually type out HT instead of TH. Okay, so I know you're probably thinking, but why would we do that? But trust me when I say under pressure, you tend to do some weird things. So the length, obviously, of the ID number. So now we need to see that, and this is another mistake that learners do. When you're required to find the length of something, learners assume that the numbers, that by getting ID number, that is 13, okay? That is not going to be 13. The amount of digits in it is 13. Okay, so I hope I'm addressing that issue over there. So let's go ahead and say while, because obviously the while loop is going to continue until it is false or until it is true. So we're going to say while ID, okay, and can you see I'm using the inequality sign, is not equal to 13, while ID is not equal to 13. Let's say that together, okay? That's how you pronounce it. While ID is not equal to 13. Okay, that is what you say. So if while ID is not equal to 13, obviously you want to, if the ID is not equal to 13, what do you want to do? Oh, yes, thank you guys. Sorry about that. It's meant to be I length, okay. Yeah, see, okay, so while I length is not equal to 13, what do we want to do? We want to clear the t-edit. So I'm sure you learned this in school, but if you didn't, in order for you to clear a component, it's the name of the component dot clear. Okay, it's the name of the component dot clear. Now remember, we would like to remember how a while loop works. Okay, in order for the loop to continue, you want to request the user to enter their ID number again. But the user is not going to be prompted to enter the ID number using that component. The user will be prompted to enter the ID number using a input box. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say ID is equal to input box. Okay, remember the first set of quotations is for the title of the dialog box. I'm going to say data, and I'm going to say enter a valid ID number. Okay, I finish off with a space, and that's it. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone is following as we so far. So we're going to continue, and if the ID number was in fact valid, we obviously wanted to display the ID number. Okay, if the ID number was in fact valid, so this I'm going to say here, if ID was valid. Okay, I find that placing comments in your code sometimes when you're lost, it helps you to better understand your code, but it also provides clarity when you're coding as well. So I'm going to go ahead and display the ID number. It's going to be displayed in edt dot text. Did you notice that we're inputting in the same component and we're displaying the same component? Okay, is equal to ID. Okay, so just a quick recap of this. We spoke about getting input. We found the length of it. We checked while the length was not equal to 13. And obviously we cleared the component. So please note that we cleared the component, and ID is obviously equal to the display. Okay. Okay, so let us go and try this code out. Okay, so I'm going to run it. Okay, I'm going to share that window with you so that we can see it working together. So remember, the user is going to type the ID number over here. Agree? So let's assume this person's ID number is 980303 543202. Obviously, that's not 13 digits. Agree. So what should happen if we click this button? It should clear the component, and then dialog box should pop up asking us to re-enter. Did you see that? It cleared the T-edit for us, and the dialog box said, please enter a valid ID number. So now let's put in a correct ID number. Okay, so let's say 89108135112 Okay, that should be 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. Okay, what went wrong there? 9008135112088. Okay, and there seems to be a problem here. Let's see what's wrong. Okay, so let's see. Let's just follow this code and see if we're doing everything correctly. Okay, while I length is not equal to 13, do begin edt. Okay, I'm just seeing what's the problem over here. Okay, I length is equal to not equal to 13. The length is from the edit, that's why. Okay, let's just have a look at this. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, let's try this out. While I length is not equal to, so let's follow this. Okay, ID is equal to dtid.text. I length is equal to the length of ID. That's fine. Okay, and then while I length is not equal to 13. Let's try this out. Hopefully it works out. So let's see if it does. Okay, so let's go. Let me share that with you. Okay, so let's put in a valid ID number. Okay. Oh, I see what the problem was, learners. If I had entered a valid ID number, it would have displayed it immediately. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, let's put in an invalid one. Okay, so the pop-up box comes up. Let's put a valid ID number in. Okay, and it's still doing this. I don't know why. Okay, let's. Oh, okay, I get it, learners. I have to find the. Okay, so I figured it out. So sorry about that. Everyone has those days, right? So I'm gonna find the length of the ID in there. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, while length of ID is not, let's just try this one more time. Okay, we've got our var, we've got our ID. Let's remove that. We don't need that there. Okay, we're just gonna do it at once. Okay, so we're gonna say edt while length of ID is not equal to 13. That's fine. Do begin edt id.clear ID is equal to enter, come outside, edt_id.text is equal to ID. Let's try it out the last time, okay? Okay, if it doesn't, then we're just gonna continue, but that's the code, okay? You know, I'm sure in class as well, there's days when you don't get it to work, but let's just try it out the last time. Okay, so I'm gonna share that with you. Let's hope, okay? So let's put an invalid ID number. Okay, we say verify, pop-up box should come up. Let's put something valid. Okay, did you see that? So the problem was, and I will answer your question now, Morgan. The problem was, learners, and let's look at that. Okay, I thought that it could have worked out if we just, and I'm glad that we saw that error as well. Did you see what we had to do? Because the length had to be found within the loop. Okay, and I did see learners stating that to me, and one of the learners did state that to me there. But remember that it is obviously once the input box pops up, we've got to find that length again. So important that the length needs to be found within the while loop. Okay, the length needs to be found within the while loop. So again, really important that you note that. So we went ahead, we did that, we did edt_id.clear, and obviously we requested the user to input the correct value. Okay, so everyone's happy with that. So I got learners saying it's checking the value from the input box and not the t-edit. But remember, learners, we're still using the same variable name. Okay, so I hope that was clear, and I'm glad we had that kind of problem. So we figured out that. So again, the problem was the fact that you had to find the length, or you had to have the length within the while loop. Okay, so let's go back to our code and let's go back to our PowerPoint rather. So what did we learn from this? Okay, remember, since we need to use the ID number with string and character handling functions, therefore the data type will be string. Okay, but let me ask you this question here, just to get our mind away from that question now. What would have happened if the ID number was declared as an integer, and bearing in mind that we're going to input 13 digits? Do you think if it was declared as an integer and we entered 13 digits, would it work correctly? Okay, would it work correctly if we let's ignore the fact that there was string and character handling involved. Let's just say we wanted the ID number, and you said um, let me accept it as an integer. Would that work correctly? Okay, the answer is no, because the maximum length for an integer is 10 characters. Okay, the maximum length for an integer is 10 characters. So that is what you need to know. The maximum length for an integer is 10 characters. So even if you didn't involve string and character handling and you wanted to input this ID number as an integer, it will still throw out an error. Okay, so just remember that in future. So that's two important points that I wanted you to note over there. Please take note of the inequality symbol. Okay, please take note of the inequality symbol. Okay, be able to clear the contents of the t-edit. Obviously, it's the name of the component, dot clear. And finally, input had to be repeated to ensure that the loop continues. Okay, input had to be repeated to ensure that the loop continues. Okay, learners, so I'm going to move ahead to the next button, or the next question rather, which is 2.1.2. So it says under the button provincial code, declare a global variable called prov code. Can you see that they're telling you to declare this variable? So you shouldn't go ahead and call it province code, whatever. They gave you a name to call it, and obviously that's what you're going to use it as. Global, we'll do that now. Retrieve the province selected. Okay, retrieve the province selected by the user from the combo box and use it to determine the provincial code of the delegate. Okay, and use it to determine the provincial code of the delegate. So the provincial code is derived as follows. So let's read the question and we'll obviously look at it what each part means to us. Okay, so if the province contains a single word, then the code is the first three letters of the province. Example, if the user selects Gauteng from the combo box, your code should have the letters GAU. Okay, I will repeat that. If the province consists of a single word, then the code is the first three letters of the province in uppercase. Oh yeah, just note that. So GAU. If the province consists of two words, the code becomes the first letter of each word in the name in uppercase. For instance, KwaZulu Natal. Now, can you see KwaZulu is one word over there and Natal is another word. So because of that, you want the letter from there and you want the letter from the second word as well. So again, really nice question. It says, let's do the global variable. Okay, let's go do that. And obviously we'll talk about it as we go on. So it said create this global variable called prov code. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I know the other day learners were like, but can we do it over here, whatever? Do it under public. Well, you're welcome to. I prefer using it where it says var. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say prov code colon string. Okay, so that's how we would have done it globally. If you did do it locally or within a button, you would get that mark wrong for obviously the declaration part. So we're going to go ahead. We declared it globally. We're going to come into provincial code. Okay, is it the correct button that I'm doing? Provincial code. Yes. Okay, and let's do the code. So we want the user to obviously, we want to extract from the combo box. Remember learners, even if you get lost with this question, do the basics. Start off with the input. Where is the input coming from? The input is coming from this combo box that we see says select province. So the combo box is where the input is coming from. So let's get back into our code. We want to store the province. So I'm going to create a variable for that. I'm going to say var s province colon string. Okay, I want to extract from the combo box. I'm going to say s province is equal to, I'm going to use the short method, okay? And I'm going to say the name of the component, which is, remember, control space dot text, okay? Dot text. Now, this is important, learners. This is important. Now, I know learners, and I teach this to my learners as well, but what about the dot items and the dot item index? Yes, that is perfectly fine as well. But I just want to show you that dot text is also acceptable with a combo box. Remember, dot text is only going to get the string value, and if you want the position, you would obviously have to use dot item index. So that's important, okay? And remember, if you go ahead and say dot items and in square brackets dot item index, that will also be marked correct. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I want to, so what did this, so we got the input, and let's go back to the question, because the question then said, get the input, and you'd have to ask your question using the group chat or asking me personally. Okay, someone just asked that question. You wouldn't be able to. Okay, so I'm going to continue over there, and I'm going to say that retrieve the province selected by the user from the combo box. Okay, and we did that, and use it to determine the provincial code of the delegate. Okay, if the province is a single word, then the code is first three. Well, that's great. But what happens if the province is two, or what happens if the province has two words? Okay, so let's go back into that. Okay, now we're going to do that. Now, what would make something two words? Would you agree that we need to find the position of the space? Okay, because we need to see, okay, for instance, KwaZulu Natal, what made it two words is the fact that it had the space between KwaZulu and Natal. What made Gauteng one word? The fact that it did not have a space. So I'm going to continue, and I'm going to create this variable called I position Connor, you would have to ask your question using the group chat, please. An integer. So I want to send in, I'm going to say okay, let's give it an appropriate name. I always tell my learners this, don't give variables that are abbreviations. So I think I must follow that as well. So I position space is equal to, remember the pos function. I hope you guys know that, hey? I never got a chance to teach you that, but with my class, obviously we did, but the rest of you. So I'm going to find the position of the space. Where do I want to find the space from? I want to find the space from the word or from the variable S province. Okay, so again, notice how it works. You use the pos function, you indicate what you want to find, and you indicate the variable that you want to use to search for it. Okay, now that's over there. And I'm going to put this comment because I know there will be someone saying, but what is that doing? Finding the position of the space. Okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to say, okay, now that we found the position of the space, let's say this now. Let's use the word counting. Let's just put this in as a comment. Okay, counting. Would you agree that the position of the space would be? Let's continue typing. Position of the space will be 0. Agree? If the user selected counting, the position of the space will be 0. Why? Because there's no space over there. But let's say, for instance, the user puts in KwaZulu, and we're going to use it the way the paper said it. I know sometimes it's 3 words, but we're going to use it the way the paper showed it, as KwaZulu being 1 word and Natal being another word. Would you agree that the position of the space in this instance will be 1? So this is what I'm trying to show you guys. That is what the position of the space is doing. It is finding the position of it. You know, I still feel that learners don't understand the pos function really well. Remember, it is finding the position. If I had to ask you, what is the position of L in your name, for instance? In my case, it'll be position 1. It's a number, so that is why it's an integer. So please note that's how the pos function works. I'm going to test it now. I'm going to do an if statement. And I'm going to say if I position equals 0, because if I position equals 0, then would you agree that I can form my code? So remember they told us to, oh, I don't like this. Okay, remember they told us that the code should be, remember they told us that the code will be obviously, the position of the space will obviously be, in this instance, yes, thank you, will be 8, okay? Because the position of KwaZulu is obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the position of the space in KwaZulu-Natal would be 8. Okay, so we want to go ahead and we say if I position equals 0, then obviously we can continue and say if prov code, remember that global variable that we declared, prov code is equal to, now it said convert it to uppercase, so I'm going to do that at once. Uppercase, and I'm going to, it said copy the first 3 letters. So can you notice what I'm doing here? I'm extracting part of the string. I'm trying to do quite a bit in one statement or in one line of code. I want to copy S province. Okay, what is my starting value? 1. And how many characters would I like to use? 3. Now learners, if you don't know how the copy function works, I'll just go over it briefly over here. The copy function works as follows. Okay, copy is used for parts of a string. Okay, if you want a selected part of a string, that's when you would use the copy function. It has to be a string variable, so you indicate the variable that you want to obviously extract these letters from. This is the starting value, and please, this is where I get learners messing up. I'm going to put over here. 3 is not the ending value, but it is the amount of characters that you want to obviously copy. Okay, it is the amount of characters that you want to copy. Amount of characters. So someone asked, what is prov code? Learners, prov code, can you remember that we declared it globally just now? It said create this variable globally, and that's what we will store our code in. Okay, so hopefully I answered that question. So prov code is equal to uppercase copy S province 1, 3. Okay, so learners, really simple. I'm going to move on to the last part. And obviously, if it is not true, then obviously we'll use the else. And remember, with the else, we remove the semicolon from the end, and we'll say else. Okay, else begin. Okay, and I'm going to say uppercase. Oh, sorry, else begin. Prof code is equal to uppercase. And if you want to do this, by the way, if you want to do this by the with regards to doing it separately, maybe uppercase in one variable, then displaying or copying in another variable, you're welcome to. I know my learners in class as well like to be as efficient as possible. So you're welcome to do it in one step or in multiple steps, whichever you're comfortable with. Okay, so I'm going to explain something over here. Okay, and I'm going to say prof square brackets 1, okay, plus, and I'll explain what I'm just doing now, okay, plus prof square brackets, you obviously want the sorry, you want the S province, so that's there, S province plus S province square bracket, the position of the space, which is I position space, plus 1. Now let's talk about this, okay, before we move on. Okay, so we're going to talk about this before we move on. Okay, so we're going to continue with this. Okay, we're going to continue with this. And we're going to say prof code is equal to uppercase. So notice, learners, if you want to obviously copy the first letter. Now this is what I like to use. I like to use the square brackets, and I would like to put the number in the center. So again, in place of the copy function, if you want to copy a single character, you obviously can do it with a set of square brackets and the number in the center. And then I said plus S province. So let's just make sure we're doing it correct. Uppercase, copy, uppercase, S province 1, okay, plus S province and I position of the space plus 1. Okay, so obviously that is the code that we will generate. We're not going to check if it is going to obviously be working same time, but we'll obviously have that, it should be fine. Okay, so again, I'm hoping that that is fine, learners. The question again that we can go back and see is, it said, declare a global variable, was obviously doing whatever we had to, checking that it's 3 letters, and then if the province code consists of two words, then obviously that is what you would do. So what did we learn from 2.1.2? It is obviously being able to find the position of the space, understanding the purpose of the if statement and the value 0, using the copy function, and again, pay attention to the finer detail. Okay, so one of the learners did mention for me to go back to the code, so I will do that. Okay, so take a look at this, please. Understand it. Remember, the input came over there. Input came over there. S province is equal to cmb province dot text. Okay, I position of the space is equal to pos of the space, and obviously if that is obviously how we would have done that. Okay, so please just have a look at that. And obviously it didn't ask us to display it as yet, so I'm not going to do that immediately. We're going to continue answering it, and we're going to do the display at once. Remember, that is the purpose of the global variable, to be able to display it in other buttons as well. So I'm going to continue. So we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, and 2.1.3, I have about 7 minutes left. So I'm going to just continue. And obviously, we're going to continue with this tomorrow as well. Okay, so 2.1.3 says button registration code. Each delegate will be issued with a registration code, which is derived as follows. the first three digits are the last three letters of a person's surname. Okay, the next three digits are the 7th, 8th, and 9th digit of the ID number. And obviously, the next thing is the next character is a hyphen. If the delegate is not requiring that accommodation, or a hash if they are requiring accommodation, followed by the provincial code. Note the registration code must be in uppercase. Store the registration code in a global variable called reg code. Okay, and obviously, once you have that, you obviously can continue. So next, registration code must be in uppercase, and store the registration code in a global variable called reg code, and enable the register delegate button. Okay, so that's really important. So first three digits of are the last three letters of the surname. Next three digits are the 7th, 8th, and 9th digits of the ID number, and the next character is the hyphen. So let's get back to that, okay? So we're going to try that out. We're going to type that in which button? It said that we must type it in. So we're going to do this in registration code. So let's go back over there. Let's go to registration code. Okay, so let's start this off. So we're going to say var province code. Obviously, we want to get the province. So I'm going to we want to get the last three letters, sorry, of the person's name. So I'm going to get the surname. So I'm going to say var s surname colon string. Okay, and let's just do it individually. Okay, so I'm going to say s surname is equal to edt surname dot text. Okay, then the next thing that you want to do is you want to get the ID number again. Now you could have done this globally, but I'm just going to do it in here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to obviously just assume that ID number was declared locally. So I'm going to get the ID number again. So I'm going to say ID is equal to edt ID dot text. And we're obviously going to then find the last three letters of the person's name. So I'm going to do that I'm just going to do that for today, and then tomorrow we would continue this. Okay, so we're going to say s last three. I created this variable called s last three is equal to copy. Okay, you want where do you want to copy from? Okay, where do you want to copy from? I want to say okay, s last three is equal to copy. You want to obviously copy from the person's surname. So I'm going to say s surname. Okay, where do you want to continue? You want to find, you want to go to the last character, which is the length of the surname. Okay, and it is obviously going to be -2. Now I'm just going to finish off with this for today, and tomorrow we will continue. Why is it -2? It is -2. Notice it wanted the last three characters. So if a person's name has 10 characters, obviously you want the 8th, 9th, and the 10th. So obviously by saying -2, you're able to go to the last, you're able to go to 8, 9, 10. By saying -3, you'd obviously get 7, 8, 9, 10, which is 4. So please have a look at that question, learners, and please download the files for tomorrow so that we can do this together. Thank you for this. Thank you for attending, and please, we will talk again tomorrow.